Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and Tim, aka Timbo.
Oop.
What's up, gentlemen?
You've been doing too many perfect intros. We needed one.
Yeah.
About time. We're doing all right. So it's Timbo and I this time, and there's a little announcement we want to make, and I think most of you have probably seen it already, because by the time that this goes out live to everyone, we would have put a post up announcing that unfortunately Mike Dashes is no longer with the 5th Trooper. He's moving on to greener pastures, I'm sure, and we wish him nothing but the best and good luck in his future. And we just wanted to be transparent, let everybody know that he won't be with us anymore.
Yeah, Mike obviously was a founding member of this podcast 3 years ago. Is it weird to say that? 3 years ago? He's a great friend. He's a great guy. So yeah, definitely wish him the best in his whatever he's doing in the future. So, and thanks for all your time on this show, Mike.
Yep. Yeah, he worked really hard for us. So it's a bummer, but people got to move on in life, and it happens. With that, in our post, so this is weird because I'm talking about something in the future we haven't posted yet. But ideally in our post, I'm, for anyone who's been a Stormtide subscriber, it's in the post as well. But, we are pretty okay on Stormtide. Mike did a ton of work for Stormtide, but we're at least 3 boxes ahead. So we'll be okay there. And, I was working hand in hand with Mike, so hopefully I'll be able to take it over. And in the meantime, we may try to look for another game designer. So keep tuned for that. But I don't see any real hiccups in Stormtide. So, if you're a Stormtide subscriber, everything is okie day.
So, and on a personal note for me, I am my wife is due to have a kid here shortly in the next couple weeks. So if you tune in next week or any other week and I'm randomly not here, that's probably why. I will be back on the show after that at some point.
Yeah.
But clearly that's a fluid situation. So that's a long way of saying if you tune in next week or any other week and I'm not here, don't freak out.
It's by design.
Well, sort of. So yeah, this will be my 3rd kid, so we did in fact have to buy a minivan. Unfortunately.
Wow.
It's pretty, I actually like minivans though.
All right.
I'm sort of grateful for the excuse to buy a minivan. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I get it. They're very utilitarian. There's a lot you can do with them. I'd say up here where I live, though, because of all the snow, we went to the SUV, which is
that makes sense.
Not as convenient, with the sliding door and the space, but it's still for 6 of us. It's not bad, Yeah. And it goes in the snow, which is key.
Yeah, we occasionally get snow down here, but when it does snow, nobody drives. So
I'm just up in Canada thinking it's very cute that you think you have a lot of snow.
Hey man, I live in the snowiest city in America. We can compare snow later. So, and we're gonna rotate, while Kyle is on maternity leave and
paternity.
What did I say? Paternity leave. Yeah, I don't know why I said it the other way. So we'll be rotating hosts, and so we'll still be doing a Scoundrels podcast with no original members of the Scoundrels. So that'll be good.
It'll be like Jeopardy.
Yeah. Just me. I went from the man behind the glass to the only man on the podcast from the original crew. So, it's all good.
I'll be back. Don't worry.
Everything is fine.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that's our big news.
You got any housekeeping for us, Jay?
Yeah, always. Hey, everyone out there, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, what are you doing? You're listening to this podcast, you read our articles, you use our tools like Legion Quick Guide and Legion HQ. Well, we pay all the folks that work on all those things, and we do that through our Patreon. And so if you want to keep using our blog and listening to this podcast and using our tools, great, do it. And if you want to support us so that we can keep making those better, keep putting out posts, join us on Patreon. You also get another podcast, Fifth Trooper After Dark. It's a lot of inside baseball about Fifth Trooper, and we deep dive into like lists and stuff where here we run out of time, but we try to do that on the After Dark podcast. So and then other than that, Stormtide is going strong. We are heading into box 6 this month, which is really exciting. If you haven't heard, there's monsters in Stormtide now. So we created an entire kind of almost like a faction of monsters, and so that's really exciting too. So yeah, check out Stormtide. And who is it? Guerrilla Gaming actually did a kind of like a review / box opening of box 1, and he said that they're going to end up doing some like battle reports starting, I believe, this week or next week. So that's really cool. So if you're thinking about getting into Stormtide and you want to see what it's all about, go check them out and come back and subscribe.
Awesome. You want to plug your Twitch there, Tim?
Cool. Yeah, I can plug my Twitch. I'm a blog writer on Fifth Trooper. Also do some Twitch streaming of Legion games. Timbo 8700. Yavin based Team League is starting up. Well, we'll have started up by the time this podcast comes out. So hopefully we'll see some Yavin based streams in the meantime.
Again? Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't it just end?
Ended up before Invader League started.
Okay. All right.
It just feels like it's like, because it's like Team League and then it's Invader League and then it's Team League and then it's Invader League. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean that to like some. Team League is great and David does a great job. I was just like, what? Didn't that just? Man, time has been flying by. All right, good. Yeah, David does a wonderful job with that Team League.
Yeah, I'm kind of sort of help with the organizing a little bit, but Hero League is starting up. Like there's a 1 round before the holiday hiatus, and then after Christmas or whatever holiday you observe, that's when it gets full swing of things with Hero League and Champion Circle.
Cool.
Awesome. That'll be exciting. I'm not participating this time for reasons that we already talked about in the last 5 minutes. So
we always have good intentions, the Fifth Trooper, to start a team, and then we all get busy and we're like, yeah, we can't do this. So so Fifth Trooper's passing up this season, I guess. So
yep. Speaking of Invader League, real quick, we actually have a final game set up. The final 4 matches were played, and in the final is Snyder. That would be the same Michael Snyder that I played in the SoCal final. And then Florf. So who knocked me out in Invader League. Florf is playing basically Rexstar with swapping out an ARC strike team for one of those ranged Wookiee units with a bowcaster, basically. And then Snyder is playing Dooku and Magna Guards. So should be interesting.
Oh, that's too bad. I was really hoping. I mean, congratulations to both of those guys, but I was really hoping an Empire would make it in this. That's too bad.
Yeah, it was no. Actually, this could be potentially, if Florf wins, it would be the 3rd Invader League in a row that has been won by Rex. So
wow.
It would be the Rex 3-peat.
Now, do they remind myself and our listenership, not all the RRG is taken into account?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. This is
it is-
pre changes.
Yeah.
This is pre-points, pre-errata. The only thing that was factored in for elims were the turn 0/setup phase changes. So the red player picking table side and then the 4-card flop
Okay.
were both in play because we knew about those early enough.
Yeah,
But the points changes in errata and stuff didn't come out until like it was like the first week of elims.
Yeah.
So very narrowly missed it. But
Yeah, like Flor's list is now I think 828 points, and Schneider's is still under 800, like it's like 780-ish.
yeah, no, it's like 790 something.
I was like,
but
okay. But-
yeah, it's still under 800. But yeah,
Yeah.
Florp's list is well over 800. So yeah, it'll still be interesting. I think last march of the Rex Star, if you will.
The world that was.
Yes, the world that was. Speaking of Rex, today we're going to talk about. So we did the tier rankings for the other 3 factions.
Oh, yeah.
And today we're going to talk about Republic. So saving the best for last.
Oh, good.
Oop.
So let's do that.
I love that you're just into Republic now. And you're like best for last. Like you just 100% bought in.
Jay, that was supposed to be space for a drop.
I don't care. I'll cut it. It's fine. I'm just getting pissed because I'm just seeing the Anakin in your background, knowing that you're in all 4 factions now.
Yep, I am. There he is. I'm pointing to him. Have not taken him out of the box yet, but that will happen soon.
I also might have some secret intel that someone might have ordered a box of Wookiees from
Canada.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh no, Kyle.
I'm not sure which direction Tim's portrait is on the screen currently, but
Kyle, you have a
yes,
kid
I do have
coming.
some Canadian friends.
You can't invest in another faction.
Gotta say, my local stores love it that I have some American friends who want to buy all their product.
I bet.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's not local to us, but you are supporting a local gaming store, Kyle. So that's
There you
good.
go.
Yeah.
See? And you know what? They're also a rebel unit. Maybe I just want some diversity.
Sure.
Anakin,
Yeah.
that Anakin box, I have no defense for, except that there we go. I just wanted to do a master apprentice paint job here.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the only other Republic model that I own. So,
I forgot you had that. That thing's so beautiful.
yeah, I'm actually not done with it yet. I still need to do the rather large base, but it's mostly done. Yeah, just needed some company. He was lonely. Yeah, I have been enjoying Republic in elims and on TTS generally. I played a game over the weekend, which I will briefly talk about when we get to the star of that game. Which we're actually going to get to first because he's listed first in Legion HQ.
Because it's alphabetical.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first unit up, Anakin Skywalker.
You guys want me to go first? Because I'm definitely going to have the controversial view on this. Yeah. All right. So I'm still putting him at a D. Even with the changes and everything, I think he's made some leaps forward, but I still don't think, competitively speaking, he's going to be a top tier. And here's my reasoning behind this, and then you guys can counter me. Is I think he's great in today's meta, right? Like I think as far as when it comes with melee units and all the Wookiees and everything that's going on, as soon as that meta shifts, he's no longer going to be good. And so I'm putting him at a D.
Well, Jay, this tier list is for the current meta.
All right, fine. It's C then. He's a C in today's meta.
All right.
Well, I mean, I think I put him at an A.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us why.
Elaborate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I was definitely a detractor of Anakin in the me not playing him world, but him going down to 155 means he in a faction that is very expensive He allows you to bring a Force user for pretty cheap. His command card changes also give him dodge cards, which is something he lacked before. Because now that he gets defend 1, every command card is now a dodge card,
including
which-
command cards that are not his.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, as Jay said, in the current meta, you can do some pretty fun things with melee units. And when there's not a gunline on the other side, you're a little bit less worried about his flaw. So all those things combined together. I also think the adding the extra order to his 2-pip also is a sort of quite a sneaky, really good change, because it turned him from a very order hungry unit to now he's pretty good at giving orders out generally. Even just like that one extra order was pretty big for him.
Yeah, I'm also going to give him an A. I actually played him over the weekend as part of like I think I would make some tweaks to the list, but basically it was like a standby sharing Overwatch nonsense list with him and Padme, and then 3 of the ranged Wookiees with Overwatch. And I was kind of underwhelmed by the ranged Wookiees. I think I would swap like 1 or 2 of them out for melee Wookiees. But Anakin himself, I was playing against the Iden Vader tactical strike list. Basically, it was like, it was an Iden 3-3-3 list and then plus Vader, because you could do that now. But Anakin killed like 5 units by himself, and then also force pushed like 3 other ones into an exemplar standby from Padme that the Wookiees just used. And then he himself also used like 1 or 2 of those exemplar standbys. So it was definitely the Anakin show in a way that I didn't really appreciate was possible. He does take a little, like 2 turns to kind of get fully operational, so to speak. And yes, his command cards don't really like do anything other than give him a bunch of keywords. But now that you have that 2-pip that gives him dodges, every command card is Mileize the Force basically for him, which is to say that it's great. And with Gem So Mastery, there's this interesting like psychological effect when he has a dodge. Like when a normal Force user has a dodge, you're like, well, I'm going to shoot him, and I guess maybe I'll take a wound from deflect, but maybe I won't. It's a little bit of a gamble, and you got to shoot him anyway, right? So you shoot him. But there's this like psychological effect when Anakin has a dodge, because it's like, I'm going to shoot him and then I'm going to take a wound, Right.
Gemso also activates in melee, which is
Right.
also an important, because once, especially if you're doing a melee skew list, you get him in melee and then suddenly he has a dodge every turn and he's fighting some other Force user, you can take a 6 of their health for free basically.
Yep.
So yeah, he does still have some big downsides. Like if you're doing a standby thing, to like once you start playing his 1 and 2-pip card, it starts messing around with his ability to actually take standbys.
Right.
Because his 2-pip forces him to attack, so you can't take a standby, and his 1-pip if you don't go first, so you get a suppression, standby goes away.
Yep.
So yeah, there's still problems with him, and he has my ally force every turn except the turn he gets flawed.
Right.
So
yeah, you have to. I mean, I run him with endurance. Which I think is kind of mandatory, because your goal should just be to make it so that your opponent can essentially never play the flaw.
Yeah.
And if you can keep him from getting shot by like a suppressive weapon, or if you can keep him from getting hit by something like Master of Evil, that should be doable.
Yep.
But yeah, if he ever gets hit by that flaw, that's real bad. He's definitely not without his weaknesses, but he's also, his attack is just as strong as Operative Luke, except he's got more pierce and more impact. He doesn't have a double attacks card like Son of Skywalker, but you can use Padme to feed him potentially standbys so that he gets extra attacks, just sort of generally. And he's 40 more points cheaper than Operative Luke. So
Yep.
Yeah, you're not getting Operative Luke, but you're also not paying 195 points for him. So
yep. Which is especially important because it is Republic.
Right.
Because if you could take Operative Luke in Republic, you probably couldn't because of his cost. You could. You'd have to make huge sacrifices, right?
and then would you really take him over Yoda, who's 5 more points?
Yeah, but that's mixing factions again, which is always a dangerous
right. I know
rabbit hole.
Yeah. I think if you could take 155 point Anakin in Rebels, he'd be like ridiculously
Oh yeah,
amazing.
you'd also do that too. Yeah.
Do you think, let me ask you this, if he was an operative versus a commander, would he be worth more or less? Or would your tier change?
Less. Definitely less.
Yeah.
The fact that he's a courage 3 bubble, the fact that he can hand out orders with generic command cards, those are all upside. The only thing really you quote unquote gain by him being an operative would be that you could take another commander in that slot.
I mean, Anakin, Chewie, Wookiee Chieftain sounds hilarious.
It does, but it also sounds kind of like unaffordable. So
Yeah. Him. It's better for him to be a commander, I think, overall.
Yeah.
Okay. That was good.
Yeah. So anyway, I put my money where my mouth is. That is, as we noted, that is an Anakin box in my background. I was at the mall Christmas shopping. I took my son Christmas shopping for my daughter. My son is 3, so he gets the concept enough.
Yeah.
But he kept wanting to buy her like trucks and stuff, and I'm like, maybe like a unicorn or something with glitter. I don't know. She's a 5-year-old girl. Like, I don't think she wants an excavator for Christmas.
Right.
But anyway, we may have wandered into the game store that's right there in the mall. Just to see what they had.
I can't talk. I think I've said it on this podcast before, if not I said in the 5th Trooper, but we're building studio armies so that I can start doing battle reports and stuff. So I have all 4 factions now too.
There you go.
So I get it. It's an addiction for sure.
And I'm definitely getting Shadow Collective because it has Maul in it. So
Yep. Same.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, that's not even a question.
All right. Well,
all right.
We'll see if it goes beyond that 1.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to paint either way. All right. Next one on my list here is Clone Captain Rex. Literally opening with the 2 most probably controversial choices of today.
Ooh, who wants to go first? Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so before the errata and the points changes, would we all agree he was an S tier? Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna put him at a B because I think even though with the changes, he's not as great as he once was, but I think he's still very serviceable, and I think there's still a lot of room for him to be put into lists and to do some stuff, right? And I think we have to look at this outside of what he used to be and say like, oh, well, he was an S, now he's a D because he's no longer an S, right? I think if this was a new unit and he had everything with the erratas and the changes today, I would put him at a B. He's a good unit. Not great anymore, but he's good.
I'm sort of in the like high C, low B category, and I'm more tempted towards C than B, but somewhere in the you could definitely still take him and feel good about it, but he's no longer like he's far from the first thing you add to a Republic list most of the time.
I'm gonna say like a C minus. I think the errata. So it's the thing is here, it's not just Rex, right? It's the clone trooper keyword. It is the other clone errata, like removing critical from arcs, because that affects almost any list that you would take Rex in. And then it's all of the points increases to all of those other things, including to Rex himself. So, well, I think that all of the errata and the card changes and everything were entirely reasonable. I think all of the collective point increases make it really hard to fit like a Rex army in the traditional sense. Call Me Captain is still an amazing card that you can build around. It's one of the best support commander 1-pips out there still. Take That Clankers is still perfectly fine. Now it just does basically what it would have done when he was released before clones had access to tactical. The 3-pip is whatever, but most support 3-pips or whatever. So
he also still interacts really well with the Republic generic 2-pip as well.
He does.
the air
Yes.
support.
Air support. Yep.
Like he kind of has 4 really good good cards for himself.
Yep.
Just
I
sort
agree.
of So
In the same way that Kraken interacts really well with the Separatist Bombard for the same reason.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree with that. But I think it's just that with the increase to him and then all of the supporting piece increases that you would normally take with Rex, it just makes it kind of hard to fit everything that you want to fit. Particularly, I think the arcs. Clearly, you can run Barks with him, but it's not quite the same.
We'll get to the arcs.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna give him a C. I think he's still like a perfectly decent support commander, but all the things that he's supporting are also worse than they used to be. Now, all of those things also were like S tier before, so not saying that those nerfs weren't necessary, but the collective impact is pretty hard.
Yeah.
All right. Chewbacca.
Okay, I have 2 answers to this. One, I want to give him an F because he's like the only unit in the game where I have to buy 2 units in order to like make him work. Like, well, I don't like
That is kind of annoying.
Yeah. Like, so I just want to give him an F just for application alone. Other than that, I don't know. I think it's really dependent on the rest of the list with Chewie, right? So like C, I think, because low C, like a C minus, because of his dependency on the rest of the list.
I mean, I would somewhere in the C, but he's a pretty niche commander in that he's pretty good in some lists, but most lists you either wouldn't take a Wookiee commander or you take the chieftain. So basically, if you want the Guardian, either you're doing sort of like a Rex, call me Captain, expose and play, or you want Chewie's ability to help Yoda out. But unless you have a niche need for Guardian, you probably don't take him.
Yeah, I agree. I think Guardian could be really powerful in certain combos with Republic. The one you mentioned with Call Me Captain comes to mind because you can use it more aggro. Just throw Rex out there and be like, I'm gonna just jump within range 2 of your entire army, and you try and kill him before I kill everything with Call Me Captain. And I've got Chewie, shaving 2 hits off the top of each of these attacks. I think that could be pretty interesting. But yeah, other than that, I think you probably just want the chieftain most of the time.
The other case too is like you want the chieftain and Chewbacca together, so you can kind of treat their health pool as one giant health pool.
Yeah, which is pretty sweet actually.
When it's 16 health, surge white defense, I mean, it's just a lot to chew through.
Yeah. Especially when the target that you probably want to shoot at most of the time has agile.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that in like an all Wookiee list. Just do like Chewie, Chieftain, a bunch of Wookiees, and some naked phase ones and call it a day.
Yep.
All right. Generic clone commander.
I'll let one of you guys go first on this one.
I can go first this time. I keep making you guys go first. I'm actually going to give him an A.
Yeah, I was agreeing.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. I mean, he's 60 points now, but direct is still an incredible ability for clones.
Yep.
Bolster, I think actually the stock goes up a little bit with the token sharing change, because you can kind of assign surges to units that normally don't have access to them, or spread them out where you want them to go. And yeah, it's just he's still a good value for 60.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of times you just have 3 naked phase ones, even just having that direct in there enables them to have fire support. So they go from being weird to kind of maybe doing stuff on like 1 pips. So
yep.
Yeah, naked phase 1 fire support is no joke, because usually you're adding those 4 black dice onto a pool that surges and probably also has Pierce. So
yep.
Yeah. All right. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'll throw it. It hurts my soul to say it, but I think he's a C.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the yeah. Yep. I was trying to talk myself out of it, but I think I'm in
Okay.
agreement
Well,
with
why do
you.
you think he's a C? I'm gonna dissent a little bit, but I want to hear your opinion first.
Well, so Obi-Wan's 170 points, and with the Republic, like the way Republic list building has changed, I always find trying to do an Obi-Wan list, you're always like 10 to 20 points over with sort of what you want to take, kind of in the same category as Rex. And you can do Obi-Wan with some other things, but you can kind of do a similar idea with Anakin. And Anakin can throw surges out to help boost their defense, which is what Obi-Wan can do. Obi-Wan has better command cards than Anakin, of course. Um, I mean, I used to rate Obi-Wan way higher than Anakin. But I he also like in a melee, his lightsaber isn't quite nearly as good just because it's the dice are a lot worse. So you can't reliably do quite as much burst damage. You do have a double attack turn, more or less. So I mean, I said C, like it could like he's sort of in that category of like he's high C, low B. I mean, he's still good, and if you like him, bring him. And I've loved playing him, but as it stands right now, I just think that there are better options.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of the stuff that he wants to do, it just doesn't make sense for him to do it. Like a lot of the Guardian and building up all the tokens and stuff. Like I get it, but it seems like you can do that differently with other units and maybe get multiple units in, for his price.
I when you said Guardian 2, I also think like he's 170 points for a package that does a lot of things.
Mhm.
Whereas now with the amount of units that have come out with Republic, you can sort of buy what part of Obi-Wan you want
Yeah.
for cheaper, right? If you want a Guardian thing, you can bring Chewie. I mean, he can't Guardian everything, of course, but
Right.
generally you want to Guardian your commanders. If you want an aggro Force user, you can bring Anakin. If you want like a super supporty Force user, you can bring Yoda for more points. So Obi-Wan, I find for me is sort of in this middle point where he's a lot of points for a really good package, but generally you only want a few parts of that package, not the whole thing. So
Yeah, I could see that. I'm still gonna give him a B, just because his raw abilities and raw stat profile are still very solid. He protects other units better than any other Force user does, to include Yoda. And his command cards are, I mean, you said they're better than Anakin's. They're like a lot better than Anakin's, and it's not even close.
when you said you were going to dissent, I thought you were going to go right up to an A, and I was going to be a
No,
little more.
it's
But yeah,
Whoa,
he's
a
whoa,
minor-
whoa,
it's a
whoa.
minor-
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
minor
yeah.
dissent.
yeah. B is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and I agree with most of your critiques of him. Primarily, the thing that Obi-Wan gets hurt a lot, also by the clone changes,
Mhm.
particularly the arc changes. I have a really hard time making an Obi-Wan list that doesn't have 3 arc strikes in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He was really the best Force user for clone lists, and as those have decreased, he has decreased with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth talking about what sort of the quote unquote like meta lists for Republic are right now. I think you kind of, there's sort of like 2 primary options that are emerging. One of them is the saber tank Yoda standby sharing nonsense.
Love it.
Yeah, we'll get there, I assume, when we talk about Yoda. And then the second one is like some kind of Wookiee list. I guess it's kind of 2 subversions of that, but either just like a pure Wookiee list with a chieftain and a bunch of Wookiees and like a clone commander or Chewie, and then you have like Anakin Wookiees.
And also Yoda Wookiees. Like you sort of have Wookiees, like all Wookiees, or like Force user with Wookiees.
Right. Yeah.
And they kind of do like both those subtypes are pretty much unto themselves.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan just doesn't really fit into either of those.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Speaking of Wookiees, Wookiee Chieftain.
Love this boy. I'm going A.
I'm gonna go B. And I think for me, again, similar to Chewbacca, it becomes list dependent. So I think he could fluctuate between a B and an A, right? Depending on how you're building your list. And the reason I say that for both of those, because I don't I like you said, Kyle, there's like fluctuation in the meta of these lists. And so I'm not 100% sure where he fits in, where I could say, yep, he's an A, take him. Every time, you know what I mean? So I like him at a B, and then kind of, because you still have to build around him in order for him to be a truly effective.
I don't know. I'm going to agree with Tim on this one. I'm going to also give him an A. I think you could honestly sandwich him in like a lot of Republic lists that don't even have other Wookiees in it and still feel fine about it. He's just like beef from a commander perspective. He's got a very solid range 3 shooting attack. He's got an amazing melee attack for a 100-point commander. He has charge. He's got agile. He's got 7 in health with a surging white save, and he's got scale. So,
and he's got a command slot for vigilance.
Right. To keep those dodge tokens he's getting from agile, and he's got 2 training slots. So yeah.
I mean, I've played the Wookiee Chieftain pretty extensively in the last little while, and it is very fun to play your 2-pip, double move your Wookiee commander to melee with your enemy unit, swing at them, kill a bunch of them, and then go, yeah, I have 5 dodges, have fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he definitely doesn't go in every list. Like, he obviously doesn't go in like the Saber, Padme, whatever list, but in the like Wookiee side of the faction right now, I think you might not bring him because of playstyle, but he can be sandwiched into like most of those lists, and you could feel really happy about it.
Even like a clone list, I'd consider running like a clone commander plus the chieftain and then a bunch of clones.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, because he has scale and stuff, it is really easy to hide him because he's a single model. You basically have like a Wookiee squad worth of like melee potential in a single model. So it's like, oh, there's like a fairly open map, but there's like this pillar right in the middle of the map that he can just hide behind. Because I've done that a few times where it's like my Wookiee squads wouldn't be safe going here because like 3 of the models are going to die from shooting, but I can hide 1 model, like perfectly safe right in front of the enemy's army. So,
yep. Yeah, he's just a lot of beef compressed into 1 model.
Yep.
Kind of like a budget force user.
I mean, yeah, that melee attack is like basically an ATST cannon, right? Like, so it's.
I mean,
it's
and
pretty
you
good.
It's Obi-Wan's lightsaber with inconsistent pierce because you have to have an aim, but like pierce 1, like it's 1 less pierce, of course, and then usually you throw tenacity on him. So yeah, 3 red, 2 black, 2 white. Surge hit, pretty good.
Yep. Very solid. All right, Yoda. I mean, I'm gonna say A. Like, he's really good. I don't know what else to say. Like, yes, being 200 points in a expensive faction is certainly a downside. But his command cards are ridiculous. His abilities are ridiculous. He's really durable with Ataru Mastery. He can attack twice every turn. I don't know what else to say.
He's good. The only reason he is an S is because he's expensive in an expensive faction, and with only 5 health, if he blanks out, he's dead, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Like, if Republic had access to cheap, good medics, like as it stands right now, he probably would be an S.
Right. But it's not like you can, like with Palpatine, you're surrounding Palpatine with medics usually. To kind of shore up that 5 health variance. But yeah, you don't really have that option with Yoda.
Yeah, and I mean the other problem, because really like the only other way to do something like that is like maybe putting a esteemed leader on him, but you don't really have anything in this army that you would really want to like give up for, for a wound for Yoda sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, naked phase ones.
I mean, like, I've seen a couple, like you put like Chewie, esteemed leader, and then you have like your 3 naked phase ones, and now you have Guardian 5 on Yoda for the first couple turns when he's surrounded. So
Yeah.
and you can like throw protector on Chewie to give
for
you
the
those,
crits.
right? So
Yeah.
and like if Yoda like on his turns is like move attacking, and now he's in melee with something, and he has vigilance, so he starts a turn with a dodge, and then he has reflexes, which is pretty common on him. Suddenly he has 4 dodges in melee with something, so he has ways to be pretty durable. You just have to, like, as with a very extensive force user, you got to be very careful and know what you're doing.
Yeah, if he gets caught flat-footed, it's real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get him powered up with those dodges, he's pretty difficult to kill.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that rounds out the commanders.
We did it. I think we all agreed with Yoda. Hey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, a couple A's, no S's. No, none of us gave any of them S's, but a handful of A's.
Yeah.
So,
I think you'll find the pattern in Gar is
Yeah.
like that.
yeah, I mean, basically, like Yoda, Chieftain,
Anakin.
the Clone Commander, and Anakin, all at least 2 out of 3 A's. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and on Chieftain, I was borderline A, so you can
Yeah.
count. Yeah.
All right.
You
We'll
can
talk to
count
you
me.
around.
I think so, maybe.
All right. Operatives, Padme.
I'm tempted to go S.
I
Whoa.
knew we'd get there.
Like in the lists that are built around her, she is the linchpin of the list, and she is an S. But in a overall tier list, does that make you an S? So I'm grabbing the bull by the horns a little bit here. But she's like,
Are you
she's-
saying S? Well, I want your rank. Don't tell us what it is first and then explain it.
I was gonna try to explain myself so that I could figure out what
Nope.
I think as someone who's been playing Padme a very long time, I think I have to go S.
All right. Go ahead. Give us your reasons, pal.
I mean, she is the cheapest way to share tokens, like any tokens, as many as you want. She has 3 really good command cards. Like her 1 pip is less so, but in niche circumstances, it can bail you out of games. It's sort of a niche card that most of the time is like ambush, but then 1 out of 5 games is gonna like win you the game. So, and then you could also do double secret mission, or just single secret mission with her, which is possible. So, I mean, she's a pretty versatile unit. Like she's kind of like just a rebel hero thrown into this meaty faction. So
I'm gonna say A. Not an S. I agree with almost everything you just said. She is definitely the linchpin of any list that you take her in. I think the fact that you need to kind of design a list around her in a way that's like highly tailored, to me, that coupled with the fact that, at least in my experience, secret mission is kind of unreliable on her. Just because, R2, like, if you're running a saber list, yeah, he can do the repair thing. But generally speaking, R2 doesn't really do much for your army.
Yeah.
Like R2's job is to be a victory point most of the time. If you're taking Padme to like support everything else in your army. And personally, I've always just found it really awkward to be like, okay, Padme, go over there, score a victory point. Like there's never a good time to do that in a list that has Padme, because if you have a list that has Padme, then you have a list that needs Padme to be with your army. You know what I mean?
So counterpoint.
Okay.
So I've played a lot of Padme. I have divulged her card 3 times ever. But those 3 times I did it won me the game.
Okay. That's fair.
At least in my experience, the key time to do it is if you see, especially if your enemy has infiltrators and you're blue, and you have like a pretty safe place somewhere near the middle of the map, you can be, I am putting Padme here, and my army's going to come up a meter, and you cannot infiltrate any of your units where you want to infiltrate them. And that's a really good time. And or just anytime you see where you want Padme to end up in the mid game is really safe, and you can just plop her there turn 1, and now she can sit there for, instead of moving there the first turn or 2, she can just be there creating tokens.
Right, but then you're playing the 3-pip primarily for infiltrate and not for secret mission.
But if you're doing that, because she's speed 2, you're now close enough that she's now a secret mission threat, right? Like, so I've played Divulge 3 times. I think I've actually scored secret mission once, but because it's such a threat, like, especially you often have R2. So now your opponent is playing 3 different games. And just that pulling your opponent's direction or attention in that many directions can really spread them thin. Like I said, I have not played it many times, but if you are someone who wants to play it, like, you could play it every game. And as long as you have like Padme, I agree, cannot just be a secret mission bot like R2. But if you have a place to put her somewhere like a quarter or half the way to secret mission where she can just stand for 3 or 4 turns making tokens and then be a threat for secret mission at the end of the game, I mean, that's just a better R2 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. But the fact that that's a situational thing is at least why I do an A instead of an S. But
so it is situational, but it's totally optional, right? Like, it's not like a situational card that you have to play, right? Like, if you just play it as a regular card, you get reliable 1, which is, for most Republic lists, really good.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Her 3-pip has 2 options. Both are really good.
Yeah.
So
what do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think I put her at an A. She wasn't before all the changes, but I think she is now in my mind, because I think she really, with Exemplar, she really helps kind of settle, the clones back, because of the token sharing stuff. They got nerfed a little bit, right? She helps support that a little bit more. I like the option of, even though I hate secret mission in general, it's in the game, but so we have to deal with it. But I like that, like Tim was saying, like, you don't always have to go for the secret mission. Just the threat of the secret mission makes players do crazy stuff sometimes, right? And so, yeah, I like all that. So I think she's a solid A.
I also, like you said, that you can't just plop her in any list. I don't actually think that's fully true. Like, I was someone who, like, pre-ROG and stuff, would just throw Padme into clone lists, and it worked very well. So I think she's better in a list made for her. But if you just toss her into a list, sort of any given Republic list, I think she adds to the list. She's not that, like, throwing tokens to units, throwing standby is never bad. I'm defending her pretty hard. I have played her, and she has been my star for a long time.
Oh, she's really good. Yeah, and she was in that Anakin list that I played over the weekend, and it was so fun, just like force pushing stuff into Padme standbys. But yeah, don't get me wrong, Jane, I don't think she's bad. We gave her an A.
Oh yeah, no.
So.
I just don't think she's S. S says she's an auto include in all your lists. I don't agree with that.
Fair enough. I mean, you made me decide, and I decided to go higher.
I know. But you defended it like a champ, so good for you. You did it.
Yep. All right. R2D2.
Okay, now let's be clear. This is in Republic. D.
Yes, Republic R2D2.
D. I mean, I'll give you my reasons.
Okay, please.
Points, the points didn't help him. I think in this list, like you said, Kyle, he really doesn't do anything for this list besides secret mission. Only if you have a saber or if you have those new saucer dish things coming out. Like, is he really, maybe a couple other things, but like there isn't much he's doing in your list. So you're in a faction that is starving for every point. Like 55 points for one thing is, unless you're like doing a double secret mission, you got 3 or 4 things going on with your list and you purposely putting him in there. He just doesn't fit in 90% of lists. So he's a D in my book.
It's tough.
You want me to go next, Tim?
Yep, go for it.
All right. I'm actually going to say A, and
Whoa.
I am a historic R2 detractor, specific to Republic. Primarily for the reason that historically he's just been a really awkward fit in like a clone gunline list, because if you're taking R2, generally speaking, you're taking him with a plan or at least a threat to score a secret mission. That means that you want the long edge to long edge deployments, which is like danger close, battle lines, disarray, hemmed in, or advanced positions potentially. And like a clone gun line just really doesn't work as well in those deployments, generally speaking. So historically, you've been kind of taking R2 in a list where the deployments that you want to be taking don't really gel with the rest of your army. But now Republic can run a list style that R2 is basically designed for and has been used in Rebels for a long time, which is the aggro in your face. I'm going to throw a bunch of threat at you and you won't be able to divert resources to R2 kind of list. And that is a Wookiee list. And in that list, yes, he did get plus 10 points, which isn't great. But it's not like Republic has cheap activations to replace them with. The cheapest thing they can take is 52 points. So if you're already taking some naked phase ones to round out your army, you're basically paying 3 more points for possible secret mission threat. And if you're taking naked phase ones, you're probably doing it in something like a Wookiee list where you can actually take those long edge to long edge deployments, slam your Wookiees in your opponent's face, and then have that secret mission be an actual plan A instead of a plan B. So that's why I'm saying, even with his cost increase, he's an A.
I was going to say B. And to add to your points, Kyle, one of the things that R2 does really well for the like melee Republic list is they're often 9 activations, but they want to play breakthrough. So when you take him, you suddenly have what's equivalent of a 10 act breakthrough list, which is usually about the standard, right? Because if you end up just avoiding each other, at least you can now avoid each other on it. Like if you're blue, you can avoid a 10 act list, not just a 9 act list.
Correct. Yep. Unless your opponent also has R2 with 10 activations.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I gotcha.
Right. And like that 9-10 breakthrough difference is like literally like, so one of my lists, I am continuously debating between a phase 1 squad and R2, a 4th phase 1 squad and R2. And having him for breakthrough is so crucial. Because of the way that you can play it as blue player. So like I don't think he's I don't know. He's high. I would say he's very high B. I'm stretching to not say A, but he's also like for saberless, he's the cheapest repair you have. So
yep.
You guys have not persuaded me in any way. I still think he's a D.
All right. Well, you're entitled to your opinion.
It's wrong, but you can have it.
All right. Let's do core units. I say that with a sigh.
Yeah.
Phase 1 clone troopers.
I think they're expensive, but they're good because even 3 naked phase 1s can shoot pretty well. Like I mean, you have to take them in every list, so whatever. But I would probably B for phase 1s, if not A. So, and I was also going to say something as well about phase ones, and this is with the clone trooper keyword change, having an odd number of phase ones is a little bit awkward. Because what you used to be able to do is like, if you have 3 naked phase ones, both 2 of them move aim, and then the third one moves shoots with 2 aims. Whereas now you can only toss 1 aim token, and I've run into this a few times. So I actually really like to have an even number of naked phase ones, so that sort of you could run 2 bundles, where one squad is the move aim, the other one's the move shoot, and then do the same thing on the other side with the other 2. So, and that's another reason why I struggle with R2, is he's usually the difference between having 3 and 4 phase 1 squads.
Yep. Yeah, same team.
Yeah, and especially like if you're running your phase ones with activations that give them surges, both for defense and offense, you have a pretty potent, like just sort of gun line to back up your melee skew with just naked phase ones, because they're not going to do a ton of damage, but they're going to do pretty consistent suppression and damage. So.
All right, I am gonna say C. I agree with most of the things you just said. My issue with phase ones is twofold. The first is simply that they're really expensive for like the cheapest thing that you can take.
Yep.
And especially for like they're still vulnerable to pierce. You know, it's a 52-point unit. And if you want to take a heavy on them, it's at least 73 points, if not 75, which is like the most expensive core unit with a heavy. As far as the cheapest way to take the basic, you know, B1s are 54, Rebel Troopers are what, 60?
55 with the
shotgun.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not taking the shotgun.
You're not,
but yeah, I get what you're saying.
What do you mean?
Yeah. The point is like they have red saves. Yeah, they can share tokens with each other. Fire support is a great keyword. Probably one of the best things about them. But they're just so expensive. And like sometimes you just need a cheaper activation. And especially for something with Courage 1, like they are super vulnerable to suppression. You can take strict orders with direct to help get around that a little bit. But 5's getting more expensive also hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say C as well. I don't find them. It sucks. Like the 2 core units that you have to take, right? And they're just both okay. Yeah, I guess. C.
I guess I've just been shockingly impressed with how much phase ones have produced lately.
All right, Tim. Hey, this
I mean,
is
this
your
should go
faction,
for
buddy.
52 points, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's one of those things where it's like you have to take them, and I don't actually feel terrible. Like I don't feel terrible about taking them.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of times in Rebel lists, it's like, yes, they're 40-point core units, but they don't really they're not doing anything.
I mean, you do need some thumbs.
You need the thumbs, but like in terms of like the fighting, you do need thumbs, but you could also take strike teams for thumbs or whatever. But I often feel forced, like I don't feel great about the units I like taking 3 naked like rebels or 3 naked stormtroopers, whereas P1s I know they're gonna do something. I mean, paying 12 points for that, I don't know if it's worth it, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Phase 2s.
I'll go. C. Yeah, they're expensive. They do some stuff. They don't do other things, and the the token sharing hurts them. C.
Tim, your sound of disgust. What letter grade does that correspond to?
I mean, considering what I gave phase 1, I think I give them a C. Like they're fine. I mean, if you are doing a clone list, you probably still want to stick at least 1 phase 2 squad in. but the disgust is more where they were, which was atrocious. Like it's
Oh, they were S.
yeah, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
and like a too good of an S.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's more of a reaction of where they fall into rather than the actual like they're fine. They're just way too expensive.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the expense is the primary thing. I actually think reliable one increases in value with the
Yes.
token sharing change
Yeah.
in relative terms, because if you can only share one token, then it gives them their own surge token to share.
Yeah. With the new clone trooper keyword, you want every unit to have at least one surge token.
Right. You want them to have their own surge
Yeah.
token. Yeah.
I'm just finding for clone lists that because of the way the costs work now, you just have to get those surge tokens in other ways.
Yep, I agree. It's just everything collectively going up in costs really hurts the expensive units like phase twos. So
Yep.
all right. Special forces.
These are going to be polar opposites.
ARC troopers, full team.
F.
Yeah. I think they just don't make any sense, and they're expensive, and they don't do enough for their points.
Yeah. I'm not going to go quite that far. I'm going to say D. Because they still hit like a truck. It is an expensive unit. And I think for most units, the clone token sharing change most of the time doesn't make like a huge difference. The biggest way that it makes a difference is for those like super charged up, like 5-6 aim shots where you kind of just consolidate out in your offense into one unit. And I think the full arcs get hurt by that the most, because that was the unit that you were using that strategy with.
They also get hurt by take that clankers change, because often what you do is move shoot at range 3 with your pistols, and then throw a bunch of aims at them.
Yeah. And then
so
just plaster somebody with 10 dice with Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas now, now they're 110. What's a full unit with the poop? Oops, that's wrong.
It's 109.
109.
It's a lot.
Yeah. it's a lot. I mean, and they still have good keywords. They have Impervious. Impervious also goes down a little bit in value because search sharing is harder now.
Yep.
So the likelihood that you completely save out of a Pierce pool is now less. It's still not 0, but not being if you need to share 2 surges with them, you can't. And you also can't share a dodge and then share a surge.
Right.
So in all those ways, they've gone down in value.
Yep. Agree.
I also they were not the phase 2s were S before the last RRG change.
Yeah.
These guys were not that.
Yeah, they were probably like a B.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, arc strikes.
D.
C.
I'm going to also say C. Yes, they did lose critical, but they still have the best move shoot of any sniper, statistically.
Yes.
Yeah, that really hurt you to say that. That's funny.
A huge problem for them now is they struggle to touch other strike team, Civil War strike teams.
Yeah, the low profile change definitely. Now before they were shredding Civil War strike teams. So.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying they were fair and balanced before.
Right.
But also because they have lethal, so that move shoot, if they miss, you're not getting Pierce.
Yeah.
And your ability to share aim, because they lost critical, they also because they don't have surge to hit, they're dice facing is way down, and it's harder to share aims and surges, right? So their offense got severely neutered,
It did.
which a lot of people are gonna love. And I mean, whatever, it is what it is.
Especially Empire players.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it that like the Arcchange alone raised the stock on so many Empire units. But,
yeah, I mean, I think they could be 52 points instead of 58 points again, and it'd be fine.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like an A tier unit again.
Yeah, they're a fine unit that's too expensive right now.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Okay. It's not that controversial, I guess.
No.
Melee Wookiees.
We've made it.
I will go first, and I will say, oh, A-ish. 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 Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're talking about today's meta, today is a Wookiee world. I think they're a lower A for me, just because I think they're good. I think they work well. I think in a Republic list, they're a little bit harder to they're not as good as they would be in a Rebel list. Wookiees, they're good. There's just not as many options, to build out the lists with. So I think they're A. They're great. They're a great unit. They're a good take. I don't know that they're an auto take. So I would say an A overall.
This is going to be, I think, my only S for Republic. They're just so versatile. I think they are slightly worse in Republic than they are in Rebels. Particularly because you can, if you're taking Wookiees in Republic, you're probably kind of relegating yourself to 9 activations. If you're taking them in multiples, clearly you can take a 1-off and still get to 10. But if you're running a Wookiee list, that's probably going to be a 9 activation list, and you can run a Rebel Wookiee list and get to 10. So, but they're still a great unit, especially in the current meta. They're great in melee, so they answer all the melee threats, the Dews, the Magnas that we're seeing in this meta. They've got ranged pierce with impact, which is good against vehicles and lots of other things. And they have scale, so they can get across the table quickly. Yeah, they're really good. They do still die very quickly when shot. So they are somewhat table dependent. If you get a table that doesn't have enough relevantly located scalable line of sight blockers, then you can really be in trouble with them. But most tables have those things because that's a thing that you're supposed to put on tables. So yeah, I'm giving them an S.
I was hesitant to leap out front with the S, but yes, I agree with the S. I think I don't completely agree though that they are worse in Republic. I think it's a bit of a lateral move because you drop an act, but I think Republic Wookiees are better supported between
fire support and Exemplar and stuff like that.
Well, but yeah, I was thinking especially Exemplar and also the Wookiee command cards are decent. Especially if you're taking a generic list, those 3 cards are better than the Rebel generic cards for Wookiees. But the Chieftain's a fun ad to basically give you 4 Wookiee squads. So I don't actually think one is straight up better than the other. I think it's sort of lateral. They're obviously different, but
yeah, I guess I meant in the compositions of building lists, not so much the unit itself, right? I think it's just more complex in Republic, which I think brings them down from an S to an A in my opinion. That's all.
I just know like you can get Republic Wookiees a lot of surges, which is something you never do in Rebels.
Yeah.
And you can also like between that and like standby sharing already sort of you can make up for the big drop in an act, I think.
Yeah, and interestingly, only in Republic can you actually take 5 Wookiee units, right? With the 3 Wookiees and then the Chieftain and Chewie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, the other Wookiees, the ranged Wookiees.
B. Would you like me to defend my stance?
Please do.
I think ranged Wookiees are better in Rebels with a bus and targeting scopes because they're very much like the Empire RT-97 dice pool in that you really need a bunch of aims behind it to raise its floor. And I mean, if you can give it aim support, you have a pretty good dice pool with Sharpshooter and Pierce. And you can do some really fun things in Gar with like sharing a bunch of aims to them and Overwatch standbys. But I think I like if you're trying to do a standby thing, I think you go for a saber tank, not ranged Wookiees, because you can do more area denial that way. But like I said, I gave them a B. I still think they're a fun unit. I was a big stan of them right off the bat. And I also just think in the meta we're in, if when we go back to a gunline meta, I think these guys go back up in stock again as well.
Yeah. I would agree with the B.
I'm gonna give them an A, and I think they're more of a lateral. These ones are the ones I think are lateral from Rebels. I think you replace the aim access that you get with the bus with aim access that you get from things like Exemplar, and you also add some tools, particularly fire support. These guys are great when fire supported by even like a naked phase 1.
Yeah, that is very true.
You add 4 surging black dice onto that 8 dice pool with Pierce and Sharpshooter, and that's suddenly like, it's 5 to 6 hits where you've got Pierce.
Yeah.
And if you do that with a Z6, then it's even crazier. Yeah, I think that their aim access is slightly worse, very slightly worse with Republic. I think that's offset by fire support. I do think that, I mean, we made the same point on the Robocast. The reason that I don't like them quite as much as the melee Wookiees is just because, well, the melee Wookiees can kind of flex and do both, even at slightly less range. The range Wookiees are just really bad at melee compared to the melee Wookiees.
Yes. Yeah.
They're still better than like a normal unit at melee. But
in a gunline meta, they're a good melee unit. In a melee meta, they're a bad melee unit.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like if you're spending all game shooting at each other and then you need to flex into melee with these guys against like stormtroopers and stuff, they're fine. But when you're trying to use their dice pool against Wookiees or dewbacks charging you, it's just not enough.
Yep, agreed. Or Magnus or Jedi or something. Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah. I will say the one value they still have, especially against like force users where it's a Pierce heavy pool that has lower dice counts, is tar pitting.
Yep.
They do take a lot longer for something with a lightsaber to kill than like a red save core unit would.
I mean, especially if they do have a dodge and a force user swings at you.
Yep.
You're probably taking most force user dice pools, you're probably taking 4 damage.
Yeah, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
There.
Well, like as often force users are about 6 hits, so you can dodge one and you might get a save because duelists. Oh no, they don't have duelists. Never mind. I was
No, they
dumb.
don't have duelists.
I was thinking my math for the melee wooks. Okay, there you go. There's another point, but melee wooks are better.
But still, if you take a dodge, that forces is
Yeah.
probably not going to kill 2 full Wookiees in one swing.
Yeah.
Which
Thank you.
means that they need to spend 3 turns swinging at you.
Yeah.
So, which is like way too much time for a force user to spend in melee with something.
Yeah.
All right. Support. ATRT.
B. B. I'll say B.
And this is not for skirmish.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say skirmish. No. I think I'm on the like verge of D and C. Just not because they're terrible, but because if you're gonna take support, I think you take other support.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say F in the 800-point game because I think their primary value is as a fire support platform. And if you're going to take them as a fire support platform, I don't know why you wouldn't just take a Bark, which has a better dice pool naked and is faster and can flank.
Yeah. I actually think I'm going to go straight D. Not the edge business. I also think part of the things hurting them right now too is because there's a lot of arm in the meta. If you're teched up to deal with like ATSTs and AATs, you're just going to blow ATRTs off the table. So in a world where no one's teched for armor, ATRTs are like much better than they are right now.
I'm gonna you guys aren't convincing me out of mine. I'm gonna stick with it, and the reason is I think that there may be a place for them, especially with all this melee and everything coming at you. I think there's a place for these guys, especially with like maybe the rotary and just kind of like holding a line. I really like what they can do, and I mean they're good with in the rebel lists as well. I get list composition is a thing, but I think that there may be more options for them than we're giving them credit for, and that's why I'm going with B.
Yeah. I've never liked the rotary on Republic ATRTs because that surge hit. Like if you're doing a fire support thing, then that's sort of a separate conversation. But as sort of a hold the line unit, the rotaries without the surge to crit can just sort of hit like wet noodles. Like for their 15 points or whatever they are, the rotaries, I'd rather just shoot with the onboard rocket launcher because you're probably gonna force 1 or 2 saves, which is what the rotary would probably do anyway into heavy cover. So
you do bring up one interesting point though, Jay, which is other than a heavy vehicle, you know, since clones don't have access to emplacements, this is basically like your only way to actually block a dewback or another vehicle or a creature trooper. Yeah. You know, Republic only has 3 units that can actually block. The 2 heavies. Actually, only one heavy, right? Because the ISP is a repulsor.
Right.
It's hover ground. So
it is hover ground. Yeah. So yeah, it's got
3
units that can actually block, and this is one of them. It's the cheapest one by a lot. So, you know, if you're looking to block out some dewbacks or something, this is the way. And I could actually see like maybe taking a laser cannon, you know, for 70 points, fire support that into a vehicle. That's going to be a pretty nasty pool. But
yep.
I'm of the opinion that in an 800-point game, naked ATRT is the best ATRT, just because that onboard rocket launcher, like if you're doing a fire support thing, rocket launcher enables that.
Yeah,
and like you can bring a laser cannon, but the rocket launcher has critical 1 and impact, so you should be able to force the same amount of saves ish. Like the problem with the laser cannon is because it's surge hit, if you're shooting and the vehicle has heavy cover, now suddenly you're just trying to get 1 anyway.
Oh yeah, the laser cannon's horrible into cover.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
I mean, I'm still giving it enough, but
that for I that's why I'm saying D, because I can see like F is I never would ever bring it ever, and I think there are times when I could see the ATRT.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Sure.
All right, Bark Speeder.
B.
I'm going A.
I'm also gonna go A. I think this is like your new strike team for
Yeah.
Republic.
Yeah.
55 points for a repulsor vehicle with a 4 dice attack. To me, is like a bargain.
Yeah.
I think the low profile change on the Galactic Snipers hurt it a little bit, because even if they have suppression, you're still struggling to get them in the like,
Yeah,
right? If they have suppression cover or are standing in like area train, they're still really hard to get with barks, like naked barks, of course.
right.
But like, yeah, and also often in Garless, when you only have usually, like, often you'll have like a 9-act list, and if you're sending repulsor vehicles forward to get blown off the table, like I think barks, you need to make sure you get to 10 acts, because you're going to start losing them.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're a good unit, if everybody's forcing this kind of like forward combat, right? They help you kind of force the fight back in your opponent's back end, right? Because they're trying to move forward with all their melee units, but if you're coming and sweeping up behind them with a bark speeder or 3 bark speeders, maybe, right? Like you're really going to cause some problems for them and make them think twice about how they're going to move forward into you. So
unfortunately, they just get absolutely rolled off the table by Wookiees.
yeah,
They do 100%.
So that's like, I think if Wookiees were not as popular as they were, at least for me, that might easily bump them up to an A. But if they get caught out at all by a Wookiee squad, it's just like, they might survive 1 shot, but probably not 2.
that's fair.
Yeah. Now they're also half the price of a Wookiee unit.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they also have a red non-surgeon save, so you can do some interesting things with like aggressive tactics, or even just like surge sharing.
Mhm.
Like if you have like Anakin running at the board with barks around him, suddenly they become a pretty beefy unit. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of lists, like with Exemplar, there's tons of sort of weird list tech you can make.
Mhm.
Yep. And they're a great fire sport platform.
Yes.
So all right. Speaking of fire sport platforms, the Fluttercraft.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know enough about this to make an educated guess, but I'm gonna go with C because I don't know. It doesn't seem good on paper. It seems like it's gonna get annihilated pretty easily. But I don't know. It's interesting with the bombardier and that kind of idea. But I'm not 100% sure how it's gonna work out.
I'm anywhere from like low D to high B. I mean, it's sort of a out of left field unit in that I don't think there's really anything quite like it. And I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to get great with them
Mhm.
and surprise some people with
Mhm.
Fluttercrafts. But I've now seen the model, and there's no way you're hiding it. And it's only 6 wounds, Surge White, no armor, anything. So, like anytime, like basically, you need to be sort of in a list that's just going to overwhelm your opponent, whether you use the either weapon, but you need to have enough threats in your opponent's face that they can't just shoot these things, because if you present them to the opponent at all, they're just going to get shot off the board.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to think of this thing. It has some real strengths. It's really fast. It's got a piercing weapon on a surging platform, which makes it a great fire support platform. It's immune to melee, which is great these days. But yeah, it just, to the extent that somebody still has like a solid, strong dice pool, which most lists have at least a couple of, you're just going to melt them when they get close to you. So
The they also the other interesting too is like if in a melee heavy meta, like their bombardier is like like along with area weapons, the only thing that can attack from like outside a melee into a melee. So like if you have a list that's like focused on getting to your opponent, tying them up, and then you have a couple Fluttercrafts that just sort of fly around and drop bombs into melee, like you could easily see that turning the tide of all the melees. So I think there's plenty of opportunities to make this thing do some wacky things.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So Evan from the Fifth Trooper podcast, he's going to PAX Unplugged this weekend, and he's taking 3 of these. He's doing triple phase ones, naked phase ones, triple Wookiees, triple Fluttercraft, and I think Chewbacca for his commander because that's what he could fit. So I don't know, could be interesting.
What are the odds he comes back home with any single one of them not broken?
Not good.
yeah,
Not good.
Yeah, can we rate these things based on transportability? Because
I mean, this is a model I would not want to bring to a tournament.
Yeah,
like,
not to mention
straight up.
it's Evan too, so he likes to just throw his models in a bucket. So God knows what he's capable of. Yeah, that
I mean,
I don't think that's coming back alive.
it is a beautiful model, but man, I would be terrified to put that thing in any kind of case.
Yeah,
for anyone building one, I would very much recommend magnetizing the top wings because it looks like they at least somewhat deliberately added some points so you can magnetize, which is I think pretty crucial because those wings stick so far out that they're going to get knocked into eventually, and if they just fall off of a magnet, it's way better than ping and the whole thing breaking.
Yep.
So
it's a good point.
The core of the model is like spindly but solid. It's really the like things that stick out, and most of those are attached in a way that you can magnetize them. So, and then it also makes transporting it super like much easier if you can sort of collapse it down into its core rather than a big old dragonfly.
Yep, that's a good point. You know, it's funny. I feel terrible. I said earlier that Republic had 2 heavies.
I was thinking that same thing. I'm like, I mean, effectively they do.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. One of these I'm going to give an F to because I forgot it was a thing.
Yep.
It's so bad that I wasn't even remembering it. But first, how about the infantry support platform?
It's kind of similar to the Fluttercraft where it's a little bit variable. Like we haven't really seen it, but to me, it seems very flimsy. I don't think I can give an F because it's not really been tested, but like on at least first glance, D is I think the highest I can give it.
I would agree. You know, I was putting together some like list ideas with this and they just weren't coming out great. And so I'm just kind of like a D. Yeah, I think it's a D, especially because it doesn't really have anything natively. Like you have to put a hard point on it in order to give it any beef. And so that alone just kind of puts me off. You know, so, and all of its hard points are 40 points or whatever. Like, I don't know.
I'm gonna agree with you guys. I'm gonna give it a D. It's got some. So I actually faced one of these in Vader Liam's. It's got some uses as like a fire support platform, but I also think there are probably cheaper ways to do that same thing. And outside of that context, you know, it's kind of squishy for something that you're paying those points for. And one thing I really didn't appreciate with it is how low to the ground it is.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say we've sort of been joking around about models here and there, but this is one where the physical model itself is a lot like the Gav tank.
Yeah, and it is a repulsor, which helps like a little bit, but it's just it's very low to the ground and it's very short. So, you know, like most repulsors, you can get over kind of like an average size height 1 terrain piece. This thing is, I mean, would you say it's maybe a little bit taller than a silhouette?
I haven't handled a physical model in my
Okay.
hands, but I've seen them handled, and like a silhouette and a half probably.
Yeah. Which
Like
is to say, like, you're going to be able to move over stuff that troopers can move over, but probably not much more than that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you're not getting any benefits of a lot of vehicles of like you have a high shooting platform, so you can
Right.
sort of see over stuff, which is like if you think about like if you're thinking about a fire support platform that sort of sits in your lines, that's one benefit of like an ATRT over this thing is like ATRTs are tall, so they can kind of see into your opponent's backlines or see over cover and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whereas this thing's just going to shoot straight through it all.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah,
And its
with you.
its weapons aren't really big enough to do its thing. It also is hurt. Like I've played a lot of Saber Tank, obviously, and when I look at this thing, I don't really see an opportunity to share tokens to it. Like you can obviously, but one of the things that the Saber Tank has going for it is like it doesn't surge a defense, and it's a red save, so you can throw surge tokens on it, and the same thing for offense. So you're not paying for that surge conversion, but you can still basically do it. And it also doesn't have outmaneuver, so you can't dodge crits or anything. So, like, if you're doing the like token sharing heavy thing, I think you go straight for the Saber Tank. You just ignore this.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. And the whole like armor 3 and then weak point rear and sides, I don't know, seems like a strange combination, but okay.
Yeah. The like, I think if you wanted to like make a fun like repulsor list, like 3 heavy barks with 2 of these things, and just like, I'm just gonna fly into your face.
Yeah.
Like maybe
I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's valuable, but it's interesting.
it's. I mean, I kind of wish it had a compulsory move. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the lat.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the lat.
F.
Segue. F.
F. You literally would never take this thing ever for any
F.
reason.
I think there are reasons to take it for Empire. I think there are 0 reasons to take it for Republic.
Yep.
Yeah. When I very first heard mention of this lat, I was hoping to make some Anakin fun times with it, but then it came out with a white save, surging defense, and like because I was hoping it would be like the Saber Tank where it doesn't surge on either, and you could like Anakin runs forward in it, and then as it goes up, it's like bulletproof more or less with the red saves surging, and then you can like surge attack. But then it came out with that white defense tie, and it's like it just gets shot off the board so quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and then it doesn't do anything before it gets shot off.
Yep.
Yeah, and the price point is just really awkward for an expensive faction like Republic.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, Saber.
Yeah, give it an A. I think
Baby.
it's a really good heavy unit. I think there's a lot of options for it, especially the whole Yoda Padme shenanigans that's going on. Like that's interesting, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff it fits in, and I think it's a decent price point, and yeah, A. It's an A. It's an A for sure.
Okay.
I mean, my heart will always treat this as like triple S, but
Yeah, I know.
A.
It's interesting. I think this is probably arguably the best heavy in the game.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Besides the T-47.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Saber Tanks can just knock T-47s out of the sky. Like
oh yeah, in the one-on-one matchup, it's not like
Yeah,
a particularly
the Saber Tank is the single best anti-armor vehicle in the game.
Mm-hmm.
With especially like you need to put armor piercing shells on it to do that, but
Yeah.
it did get hurt a little bit in the armor fighting category with the arc change, because often what you were doing is like pinging 2 or 3 health off with your arcs a turn, and then the Saber Tank would come through and just like put a bunch more on, so you could like really reliably take out like those like 7 or 8 health things in a turn, whereas now it's a little tougher. But you know, it's it's interesting. They also a subtle like in the RRG change, they added line of sight points for a lot of vehicles, and the saber tank one is actually a lot higher than what most people were using previously. So it kind of opposite of the spider droid in that it actually sees a little bit higher
Mm.
than it used to. So that helps it a little bit, I think. But
Yeah, and it's interesting, more so than really almost any other vehicle in the game. You can kind of like channel your entire offense through the saber tank.
oh yeah,
Um,
You-
it's kind of supportable by the rest of your list in a way that
Yeah.
other heavies are not.
especially if you're doing the Yoda Padme thing,
Yeah.
you can like fully lock down an area. Like the key to doing saber tank with that kind of stuff is like you need to force a situation either through objectives, deployments, or whatever. That's like I'm going to control this like range 2 area, and you either need to lose the game or come into my circle, and then I get to shoot you.
Mm.
So
Yep, I experienced that firsthand.
yeah,
It's brutal.
yeah, I do think like the how I used to play saber tank is not nearly as good as the Yoda Padme saber, just because of changes, but also it does like my old list doesn't quite have the burst damage to deal with melee lists in the same way that like Yoda Padme saber can. So it's a very fun list to play.
Yep, fun for the player, not for your
Mhm.
opponent.
Yep.
All right,
Oh,
well, I think that rounds it out.
yeah.
Yeah. We did it.
All right, you guys got any final thoughts?
No, I think overall pretty good faction. What do we give? 2 Fs overall?
Yeah, I mean, quite a handful of important C's, but yeah, lots of A's to work with.
Yeah.
It's a faction that's sort of like there's a lot of good units, a few really good units, but mostly sort of like you got to put these sort of decent units together in a way that
Yeah.
they synergize. Because if you
Yep.
just run them all individually, it's just not going to work.
Right. Yeah. You really need to kind of lean into the like combos.
Yeah, like the faction identity of Republic is synergy.
His combos, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, one final plug here. Check out the Invader final. It will be on the 18th, I think, at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Nice.
And I'm sure that they will have more details about how to watch that. But
Cool.
all right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
I'm Timbo.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.